Now, what I'd like to do is to switch gears for a minute and talk. I know we've talked about your work, but I was hoping that you would tell us a little bit more about the work that you've been doing recently on the national strategy, KM strategy with Uganda and the national agenda. Would you mind
Mm,
talking more about?
sure. Yeah, with pleasure. Because Uganda is really an exciting environment, and we have achieved a lot in quite short time. Let's say like this. Short because establishing a credible national approach is not a matter of 1 year. We started our activities actually in 2017. Um, say to be very, let's say to be actively with a project and serious activities. I've been there years before, but more for preparatory work. So in 2017, we started the activities by boldly establishing a national knowledge partnership. Of course, at that time, nobody understood what is a national knowledge partnership and why do we need this. But we found in the beginning about 100 quite relevant and competent and the engaged organizations and individuals to join this partnership and to start co-creating the outline and the objectives and action for this knowledge agenda. So among the first partners was the National Planning Authority, which of course has an important role in Uganda. It defines the way, the path to achieve Uganda's Vision 2040. And it's sort of a strategy for the development of the country. And one of the directors of the National Development Authority, National Planning Authority, was the first signatory, and he opened the whole event, and everybody was so excited about all these activities and ideas that finally they put it in the National Development Plan. And it's quite amazing to realize that last year, when we started the project on developing a national knowledge management policy, we found that the Ministry of Public Service already had started to work on a knowledge management policy. And we were more than surprised. And we were asking them, how did that come? Why are you working on a knowledge management policy? Of course, it's great. And they said, well, that has been part of the National Development Plan, and we consider it relevant practice. And so we are now working on that. And the activities of policy and strategy, of course, fit together perfectly well, because the policy gives general and say general background and orientation, while a strategy describes the concrete steps and path forward. And in our project, which we started last year, we had the opportunity to educate one representative of each and every ministry of Uganda, plus some additional agencies and authorities like the Revenue Authority, which you can imagine is a quite relevant institution, or the National Environment Management Authority, the National Roads Authority, and so on. But all ministries have participated in this, including the President's Office, Prime Minister's Office, and so on. So that was amazing, because I could hardly imagine that something like this would happen so easily in the US or even in Austria.
No.
And I mean, Uganda is also not a small country. With
No.
40 million inhabitants, it's a relevant country, and and the management of the country is quite consistent, and when something is decided, then they all do it and they agree and support each other. So that is a bit different to what we see in Europe, maybe also in the US, where the ministries do not so easily align along joint agenda for knowledge management. So, but in this case, we succeeded to do that, and we also succeeded to position knowledge management quite comprehensively, saying that it is not only considered as an internal management approach to better use and handle and share knowledge as a resource for better public services, but it is also considered as knowledge is considered as a resource for societal development. So the public administration says we, as public body driving national development, we also have to consider the knowledge in the sectors like health, energy, agriculture, water, etc. And we are facilitating knowledge partnerships in our sectors. And then also working on sectoral knowledge agendas and setting up sectoral knowledge hubs where the different stakeholders can contribute, get informed, take decisions, share knowledge, be collaborative and co-creative, etc., etc. And that, I think, is an exciting additional perspective. It also includes a national perspective as to brand Uganda as a knowledge society, to build on the traditional knowledge of the country, to maintain and develop its intellectual identity. It also includes aspects of developing the physical space to support a knowledge society, because public spaces are not only, let's say, for relaxation. Maybe public spaces can also very nicely be used for knowledge sharing and for learning, co-creating, etc. In the US and Europe, the Northern Hemisphere, half of the time it's too cold and unpleasant to be outside, but in Uganda you always have very nice weather and you can spend the whole year outside. And if there is some space that facilitates a come together and sharing and learning, then that can be quite remarkable. And establishing knowledge villages is currently on our agenda. Fostering knowledge gardens and much more.
Wow.
So, and when we reach the international sphere, also that is part of the strategy that we have created. Also includes aspects of diaspora knowledge,
Right.
because a lot of very well-educated Ugandans have left the country.
Yep.
And this can easily be considered as a loss, brain drain, as a damage, and so on and so on. However, this can also be considered as an asset, as a resource, bridging Uganda with other countries, engaging and encouraging those people in the diaspora to transfer that knowledge or to build bridges in various regards, open up business opportunities, and also support export of whatever products and services to other countries. So there are many opportunities of diaspora knowledge, and that is one aspect of many on the international domain. So Uganda, I think, is clearly committed now. It has not been so much before, but it's now clearly committed to advance knowledge as a key resource for its national development. And my personal dream and vision would be that by following this path, it can develop as fast as other countries have developed who really focused on knowledge and innovation, like South Korea, like the United Arab Emirates, and those other oil countries in the Middle East. They have been at a very, let's say, low developed state 60, 70 years ago, but they used their resources to develop knowledge, a knowledge-based economy, knowledge-based society, and made them among, let's say, the rich countries they are, and they are now among the top countries in the world.
Right.
And I don't see any reason why Uganda should not be among the top countries in the world. And you may laugh now, but Uganda is a very rich country. You cannot imagine. It has natural resources, gold, oil, everything that you can imagine is there in Uganda. It has a very young, dynamic, sympathetic population, ambitious, entrepreneurial. And if you bring this together with knowledge, it's very powerful. And I encourage them to not only let others develop them, but to take the leadership in the development and to take any opportunity to acquire knowledge from any kind of source and to lead their own development based on knowledge. And then if they do it, we are currently on a very good path. You will be very surprised how Uganda can develop.
I'm not surprised because I spent so much time there and I know what you're talking about. I do. They have such a can-do attitude. They're so enthusiastic. They have a good sense of humor. They are interested in their own development. They are, I mean, amazing people. I love them. And I'm not surprised at all about this. They have some limitations and challenges that, like every country, that they have to work on with the political situation, their human rights record, their corruption problems, et cetera, which is, I think, culturally embedded, which, you know, hey, the United States has lobbyists, right? Political lobbyists. That the first person I ever met from Uganda said, I asked about corruption, and he said, well, what about your corruption with lobbyists in the United States Congress? And I'm like, what? It's like, ah, I see. That's right. So anyway, you know, we all have our own forms of challenges, political challenges and whatnot. But I know that the people and the structures have been put in place for a long time now, whether you like Museveni or not. He has embedded some real structures that make it possible for Uganda to continue to develop. So, you know, if that's how they worked with AIDS so well, was because of the structures that Museveni put in place with the establishment of the Uganda AIDS Commission and the multi-sectoral approach, as well as the political structure that aligned with civil society and embedded itself across civil society. So I think there's a lot going for Uganda. I really do. And I hope that this, I mean, I think they could be a great model. Yeah, I do. And I think the work that you're doing is so important. And I think you picked a really good country and to be working with. I mean, this is wonderful. So
Oh, it's very enjoyable. And I really have to say that the participants of this process are engaged, smart, fast in understanding, and motivated, consistent. It's a real pleasure to work with them. I'm humbled, I'm honored, and I'm convinced that Uganda will be a role model for a systematic, targeted, integrated approach to knowledge management. I'm also proud that we are currently establishing a knowledge management program at the university at a master level. First, we integrate it in the MBA program, but we as a next step, create also the Master of Science. We also integrate it in the bachelor programs. And of course, we are starting a PhD program. And so every partner is there and is committed and working together in the spirit of mutual support and community. I'm really excited.
Yeah. And you guys are doing that in the business college, right? In the business school?
The center is anchored in the Makerere University Business School, which is part of Makerere University as a whole, which is one of the oldest universities in Africa, the oldest one in Eastern Africa.
Right. And I know that they have the East African School of Library and Information Science, EASLIS, is also at Makerere University. Have you ever talked with them as well?
We have not yet explicitly linked our activities with them, but we are aware of what they do, and for sure there will be a time to collaborate more intensively.
Yes. A former colleague of mine, David Luyamba, is a records management expert, which would be really helpful in KM, and I'd be happy to put you guys in contact, but that's another conversation we'll have later.
Yeah.